Jason. Oh my goodness, man. Okay, so Jeff Koch here, and this is another episode of Show Notes for Marketing Strategy Lab, and this is for episode 11. So if you haven't seen the actual or heard the actual, how do you see a podcast? You don't really see it, I guess you just listen to it. So to actually listen in on that particular episode of Marketing Strategy Lab, go to marketingstrategylab.com/011 to listen in. And it's Lab Rant talking about multiple streams of income versus focusing on one thing. And Jason literally spills the beans on how we actually make money. And it's a question that we get asked a lot. Actually, he said people say, hey, you know what? Let's do. How do we make money online? And they'll say, you know what? Let me try SEO. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do this. And they have this like grand, business plan of how to make money. But it's not related in any way. So the problem is they ended up what? Not getting anything or not making any money at all versus focusing on one thing. Okay, and that one thing that Jason talks about is repurposing, right? So we're very good at that, where we repurpose content, repurpose information, especially when we create an information product, to be able to sell that product in multiple different ways. And people at the how do you say it, people in people at the grocery store, companies at the grocery store selling like soaps and stuff like that have been doing it for a long time. Look at like freaking Gillette, right? I haven't shaved in a while, but Gillette and all the people that give like razors and stuff like that, they're selling the same darn crap. Okay, meaning the utility of a razor is the same. It's supposed to, right, cut, shave your face, but they'll actually add a little function to it and add this. And then I just recently saw a commercial about a guy and says the guy's terrain is different than any other thing, so you have to have this little swivel on your razor. And I'm just like, really? Like my grandpa used to freaking shave with a blade, and you got to actually have that? Like what kind of thing is that? But you get what I'm saying? But it's all about positioning, and that's what they're doing to sell it. And what they're doing is what? Repurposing what? The same stuff to sell it in a different way. And people say, okay, well, yeah, you're right. You know what? Hey, man's terrain is a little bit different than anything else, so I have to have this swivel, and they're going to end up paying $20 for a darn a razor, right? So again, the point of the matter is this: is that if you're out there trying to figure out how you're going to make money online and you haven't been successful on it, it's all about one, consistency. But again, we talk about this a lot with our clients, and we talk about this a lot on our show, is that majority of the time it's not a tactical problem you have, okay? And that's for most businesses. You don't have a tactical problem, because a lot of people that want to get in business is they get into businesses because what? Because they're great technician. And if you don't know what the word technician means, then you need to pick up the book E-Myth Revisited by Mark Gerber, and he brings that he breaks that down as saying a technician is someone that's very, very good at what they currently do, what their traits are, right? So for example, right, let's just use a mechanic for example. So someone that owns a mechanic business and someone who actually does the work, right? Someone that does the work might say, oh my God, my boss is an idiot, like most employers think their boss is an idiot, right? So guess what they do? They say, okay, I'm the best mechanic, so well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and set up my own shop. So I ended up setting up their own shop, and at first it starts out good, maybe, right? They start making money, they start making that, but then as their business grows, they start running into cash flow problems. They're working more hours, right, than before. They have expenses that they never knew existed as being a business owner, right? Because sometimes it's really, really difficult to run your numbers, and suddenly you see, what's behind the scene, and they're like, oh my God, there's more expenses, and they're stressing out, right? And the huge stress factor of worrying about other people other than yourself, right? Because if you're working for yourself just for that company on your own, you're just worrying about your own income. But then suddenly, you're working on your own business, and you bring an assistant on, you bring someone else on, bring a salesperson on, right? You gotta take care of your team members, so you start worrying about them, and then it starts compounding. And a lot of times that challenge that business owner faces, it's not because of a tactic problem, it's because of a strategy problem that they have, okay? Meaning that they didn't streamline certain processes. They don't have what I like to call a go-to move when it comes to lead generation, meaning that they don't have a predictable machine, meaning that if they do this, then that will happen, and when that happens, then you're going to make that money. Okay, and it just happens to be online that to figure those numbers out, it's a lot easier, right? To say, hey, you know what, buy traffic, you get a click for this, and then if you get a click for this, and then you have X amount of people visit your site, then out of those X amount of people that visit your site, X amount of people opt in, and based on the X amount of people opt in, you get X amount of sales, and that X amount of sales brought in X amount of revenue. So it's very easy to do versus a brick and mortar business that's totally different, right? Where you actually have to, know your numbers a little bit, different, right? Especially if it's a long life cycle of a sale, right? Things like that. So, but the point is that, if you're trying to make money online, I say this again, it's not a tactical problem, it's a strategy problem. And the only way to fix a strategy problem is, one, you got to learn about business principles. And there's only one or two ways to do that. One, you're going to learn from doing it yourself and making a bunch of mistakes, or guess what you do? You got to study or surround yourself with what? The third person is other business owners that can actually advise you. I have a board of advisors that I turn to that's not related in my company whatsoever. The reason being is if they're related in your company, they're going to have other incentives, and they're not going to give you, they're going to give you a biased opinion of something. Does that make sense? Versus someone else that has absolutely nothing to do with your business, and you turn to them and says, okay, this is the challenge I'm having in my business. How do you think we can go ahead and solve this? And then they're going to give their advice. Now, up to that point, once they give you the advice, it's up to you, obviously, as a business owner, to say, yes, that advice, I'm going to listen to it, which I think you should if they're great board of advisors, but you can make the call and decision at that time, if that makes sense. So the point is, if you're doing that in your business, you're trying to launch a online business, you're trying to scale your business, you're trying to grow your business for whatever reason, just remember that it's not a tactical problem, it's a strategy problem. So just because you buy the newest and coolest widget out there to get you more traffic, to get you more sales, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to make more money, right? A lot of times salespeople will say, okay, well, my salespeople aren't motivated. So guess what they do? They try to what? Maybe bring in a new sales manager or something like that and that kind of stuff, but it might be deeper than that, and you have to figure that out. And the only way that you can figure that out is, I do this in my own business, and I even do this with my own life, is that I follow something called the Ichikawa diagram. I guess I said it, Ichikawa, the Japanese, okay? So it's, in English terms, it's called RCA, a root cause analysis, where you try to figure out where the root cause of the actual problem. Okay, so for example, okay, like if you have a call center and you're supposed to get inbound calls, right? Then the problem might be with the business owner said, well, last month we made 100,000, this month we're making 50,000. Okay, what's the problem? The basic simple answer is what? You're getting less sales, kind of like, duh, right? Okay, but then you have to dig deeper than that. Why is that? Is it the conversion rate of the salespeople, right? Is it maybe the type of quality of calls that are coming in? Maybe it's the lack of calls that are coming in, right? Or maybe it's something that you absolutely have no control of. Maybe it's a competitor that came into the marketplace. Maybe it's a market shift that's going on. Like especially me, I'm in the real estate market. There's a lot of things that are changing in the real estate market. Just recently, I had a friend of mine who actually has no experience in real estate whatsoever, and then they actually said, hey, you know what? I want to actually be a real estate flipper. Last time I heard that was right before the crash, and so that's why I'm strategically planning an exit to getting out of it completely, is because I don't want to be anywhere near it, because my model is what? I'm a house flipper, a house developer, and I don't want to be anywhere near that. So again, the point is this, is that the lab brand is about multiple streams of income and focusing on one thing, and the focus on that one thing is focus on strategy, not tactics, but strategy on how you can do it. And then once you figure out the strategy, it's all about speed of implementation. Money loves speed, okay? So you got to go out there and go execute. And then once you go execute, you're going to be able to see some results. And when you see the results, then you make a decision to see, hey, am I going to move forward or am I not going to move forward? So that's what I got for you on this show. Lab Rants, episode 11 on Marketing Strategy Lab, and giving you the case notes or the show notes, because Jason made an awesome episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, shame on you. Listen to it. It's only about 2 minutes long, so listen to it and leave us a comment, and I would love to hear from you. So this is Jeff Koga, and I am signing out.